The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now, your hosts, Christy Scales, Aisha Morrison, Nicole Hutchison, and Jess Navarez.
Welcome in to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys in the SWBC studio. I'm Nicole Hutchison alongside Aisha Morrison, Jess Navarez, and Christy Scales. Ladies, I know we're a little sad today. I know. We've had, 24 hours? It's been a day, some change to kind of sink in the loss. The Cowboys season has come to an end, something that nobody, if you were thinking about, heading into that game last week, you did not expect to happen. What's some of your thoughts? You were on the sidelines, Christy, it just seemed like they weren't in sync from the start. I mean, and even talking to you pregame, you were like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, I didn't have a good feeling. Well, no, it was really more the unknown, the anxiety is too strong of a word, but there's the extra excitement of the playoffs and knowing everything is on the line, but then going against an opponent in Green Bay that was so young, and you watch several games, but you still don't really have a great feel for who they are. And I just don't like going against the hot teams. Yeah. And so with them coming in, I just it's not any kind of prescience or anything, but I just kind of had some uncertainties, not really knowing what to expect from Green Bay. And Jordan Love looked like the second coming. And it wasn't just the big plays, the precision, it was the efficiency of that offense and the way they were able to totally dissect the Cowboys defense. And we knew Aaron Jones was a Cowboy killer with over 100 yards every time he went against the Cowboys, and had previously had a game with 4 touchdowns. And so they were so well balanced on offense, got the good plays, and our defense just didn't have an answer. And then offensively, the slow starts and the 2 turnovers, you lose the turnover battle, and you're not sound on defense, and you just don't have a chance. So I know people are saying disappointment, and that's a word, but I would just say it was really more of a crushing feeling. And then at the whole second half, I just kind of felt sick to my stomach looking out there and seeing the Tyron Smiths of the world and the Jordan Lewises, the Stephon Gilmores, guys who are free agents, Dorrance Armstrong, knowing that this team is not going to be the same next year. Not everybody's going to be able to come back. Who are our running backs going to be? Right. So just sadness that Dak has to put up with another offseason of all the questions, knowing that there could be changes coming with the coaching staff. Don't know that for sure, but it's going to be change, and I just felt sad knowing everything that went into it, the high hopes, and then it just crumbled away in 3 hours. Actually, you could say in 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
Let San Fran tell it.
It was a very demoralizing feeling. After the game, Christy and I were talking, and I said it felt like somebody was bleeding out and you couldn't stop the bleeding at any point throughout the game, and it was just nonstop, and it was so interesting. So in the press box, the Packers ownership was sitting in front of us at the press box, and it was to the point where end of second quarter they were laughing.
Oh, wow.
High-fiving.
High-fiving. It was to the point where the press box announcer had to say, hey, just remember we're in a professional press box. That's why he said that. That's why the announcement kept coming up.
Wow.
And they were sitting right in front of us. So you can imagine how that felt, having to see that response. But also, at that point, it was deserved with how things were playing out. And so it was just adding a little bit of salt to the wound that was being opened already. It is sad, Christy, because like you said, the personnel won't be the same. There's a lot of contract negotiations that have to come up in this offseason. There's a laundry list of free agents that'll come up, and you have guys on this team that were such impacts that might not be a Cowboy next season.
It impacts beyond the playing field.
Exactly. You have on the field and then locker room guys as well, and both for
and
some
community
players.
and everything else. Yeah.
It's just really sad that this was a group, and especially now watching how the playoffs have formed over the last 48 hours, knowing that a Cowboys team that we saw before Sunday is more than capable of beating who is still left in the race.
Yeah.
It didn't make it any better watching the playoffs throughout the weekend, because it should not have ended like this, and it did. And it's taken a lot to kind of soak in. And, on a selfish note, it changes how we all work. It changes our routines. And it's, in this nature of the business, you don't know what comes next season. You don't know how the business works. So there's kind of a lot of anxiety and panic in that sense of life, too. So pissed off is how I would describe how I felt the last 24 hours and some change.
Yeah, I definitely felt a mixture of emotions watching the game. I've been watching Dak for a long time at this point, and so it sounds bad, and I told him this. I'm like, yeah, I typically know from the first couple of snaps what type of game you're gonna have, because you can see it in his feet, you can see it in his decisiveness. And when the defense, let's just keep it, I don't know how many times it's happened, but it's happened this season where the defense, the offense, the other team deferred. Yeah. And the defense could not stop on the first drive. Yeah. It's something about that tone being set that let me know, baby, it's about to be a long day. Yeah. And to your point, we know these gentlemen as humans. We know them as people. We talk to them. And so it is saddening in a way to see them go out there. And to your point, Jess, I'm more than capable of winning this game.
Yep.
And just to see the lack of urgency and it's the playoffs. Yeah. And so when you think about the playoffs, you think that, that flip being switched. And when you look across the NFL, most of the other home teams, they scored on their first opening drive. The urgency, the energy, you could feel it. And so it's interesting to hear you say that you were on the sideline and you were kind of
I'm not saying that from what I observed in pregame.
I'm saying I'm saying it from the film I saw.
To your point of the coming out in Green Bay, scoring on that first drive.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, that first play, DeMarcus Lawrence. Here we go, baby.
Yeah.
Second play, then pressure, and then the sack by Chauncey is wiped out by the contact penalty on Deron Bland, and then later in the drive, I think it was DeMarcus Lawrence who was offside, and it's like, here we go again.
Yeah, and the crazy part is
I know, with the penalties.
Yeah, and the crazy thing.
Stewing.
We always talk about the penalties. The Cowboys have diminished their penalty count in this latter part of the year. However, the ones that they have had have been pivotal.
Timing is everything.
And tone setting. And we saw this in this game. They had the opportunity to get them off the field, which I think it could have shifted momentum. It could have put the offense out there.
100%.
And then the penalties reared their very ugly head. And then Green Bay goes down and scores. And immediately, to your point about a team being hot, they said, we can run with these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we can run these guys.
Yeah,
and you could see they built confidence right off of that. And the Cowboys could not match it after that point. And when you talk about efficiency, girl, Christy, they only ran, let me see, I think they only ran
54 plays?
54 plays to the Cowboys 87.
95.
95?
Yeah.
Yep.
When you talk about efficiency, the chunk plays, big plays were huge. And you lost the turnover battle, you lost the big play game, and you couldn't get off the field on third down. It's just never going to win like that.
And you won a time of possession, too, and you still aren't efficient. That's
efficiency. Dobbs, right? 6 targets, 6 catches, 25 yards a catch, 151 yards. Musgrave, their rookie tight end, 3 targets, 3 receptions. Wicks, who had the touchdown catch, 2 targets, 2 interceptions. Guys, Jordan Love, he only completed 16 passes, but it was his passer rating was 157. 3 of those 16 were touchdowns. It was a clinic. But it was by the youngsters.
You know what's so frustrating is that the Packers kept doing the exact same thing, and it kept working. The exact same thing. The middle of the field was so vulnerable throughout the entire game.
It's been like that all season, sis.
But you're not adjusting? Where's the adjustments? They sure as hell were not in the room with us. They weren't in the stadium. They weren't even in the state of Texas at that point. I can't.
They were
tell
down in Houston at Reliant.
And that's
There you go, Christy.
But the most frustrating part about that, Jess, is the fact
It's
that
happened all season.
and but also too, baby, we sat up here. I know plenty of people who sat up here and watched Jordan Love. I asked Mike McCarthy about it. Is it normal for a rookie quarterback to be attacked in the middle of the field like this? And he said it's the offensive play calling, it's the scheme, and they attacked a vulnerable weakness of the Cowboys. But the Cowboys knew defensively this is where their bread is buttered. It is the middle of the field.
But if you don't get pressure on the quarterback, this is what happens.
Yeah, well, they weren't able to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna. So is this more of a Dan Quinn situation, or is this just the players just not?
Honestly, I don't want to blame all of the players, because there were some guys that even until the very end were giving everything. It was just as the time went on, it became more and more deflating, where you could see people are just giving up. And look, when you're at home and getting that kind of beating, how could you not? But I think at the beginning of the game, when you saw exactly what was going on, there was no adjustments. Come on. It's everybody at that point. I think there's blame that goes to every single person.
I think it's
not
important there's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, and players have to trust what they're doing. And when you're getting beat like that, and to Jess's point, like I don't know if anybody quit, but they weren't J-Ron Kerr said earlier in the season their will was stronger than ours. And I just think that was the case here. I mean, when you look at the defense, there was a lot of miscommunication and coverage. There were breakdowns. There were and again, like, I don't know what the reasoning was for changing some of the looks and stuff like that, but it still was just like, I don't think the guys are seeing it. You're not seeing the fruition of your planning, and that matters. Like, that matters, and that's demoralizing.
Yeah.
So to your point, I just felt like at one point, and then also too, you do get to a point to where a guy's just trying to make a play.
Yeah.
He's just trying to make something happen.
And chasing a play, though, to that point. We always talk about hero ball. That's a term that you taught me, is hero ball. And at that point, you have no choice but to chase those plays. And
it made it worse, though.
It did. It made the bleeding, as we're talking about bleeding out, it just made it even worse, because at that point, you're not playing to your style of football. And all of these guys said, we didn't play to our standards, we didn't play our style. Yeah, you're chasing things to happen. And at that point, if you're trying too hard, it's just doing the opposite effect. It was frustrating. It's frustrating because this team, I hate to compare here. But I went back and I watched the San Fran game from last season, last playoffs. It's really frustrating that the same exact issues that you had in the playoffs a year ago came back in this exact game a year later, diminishing all of the improvements, all of the work that you put in to get to that point. Exact same issues. Penalties, lack of defense, lack of turnovers, explosive plays, all came back a year later. How is there not answers for that? That's what's frustrating.
Well,
I know. I was waiting.
They were jumping everything underneath.
Yeah.
You know what that tells me? They know what you're doing. That tells me
they read it out.
That tells me
sniffed it out.
You're not creating conflict to make them have to think twice or to look somewhere else. There were a lot of stagnant fronts. There was a lack of motion, which is frustrating because you can see as the season has gone on that Mike McCarthy has had games where he's implemented it, and it's been beneficial. Not only does motion help with spacing and leverage and things like that, it also allows the quarterback to get information. And when you go stagnant, when you make him go up to the line of scrimmage and have to see everything that's going on like that, when you're not doing anything or motioning, it's less information for him, and he's having to make more decisions post-snap. They threw some different looks at him on the back end. They showed a safety, and then the safety would drop, and there were some different things we saw there as well. But to Jess's point, this did feel very similar to how the 49ers have made your offense be stagnant, and one of the remaining things is this offense becomes a shell of itself against some of these better defenses, and I'm just frustrated because I'm like, you have implemented things to beat these type of defenses now. We've seen it, not consistently, but we have seen it through the season, and I'm just like, what more do you need to do to to get to a point to where you're not a deer in headlights when somebody counters you. You got to have a counter to a counter to a counter.
And you know what's frustrating is you look at these stats, it does not reflect this game.
Oh no,
It's a lie.
It's almost ridiculous.
It's a lie. This 32
take-
points is crazy.
Yeah, take
32
out
points
the third and fourth
is
quarter.
a fallacy.
No, but
It comes late in the game when it's too late.
well, but they're because they're just playing shell coverage.
Baby,
but
they had second stringers in.
I know.
Boss.
Exactly. But
They knew it was over.
that's the
The
thing.
ownership knew it was over in front of us in the post box.
When the defense is jumping routes, like you say, you have to make them pay, right? It's a risk reward whenever a defensive back makes a decision like that. That I'm gonna jump the route. I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
And they couldn't make them pay.
Well, on that note, we're going to take our first break. We'll come back and break down this offense. Coming right here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be right back.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back into Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys in the SWBC studio. Nicole Hutchison, Aisha Morrison, Jess Navarez, and Christy Scales. Ladies, I let y'all get y'all's vent session out.
Your turn.
Yeah,
Yep.
gone.
We want to hear you, girl. That mic is on and ready.
Chicka winner, two,
Yeah.
1, 2, 2.
1, 2. No, so for me, coming into, this season, it was my first season covering an NFL team, right? Of course, been around sports, but I came in and, of course, just seeing the talent on this team, I feel like we've talked about it so long. It was special, right? And my mom's a Cowboys fan, so, she's always been, disappointed the past few years, of course, not making it past her divisional. But no, she had, it was just concerning to me how you go out there and you don't perform to your full potential. It just seemed like y'all touched on it, they weren't prepared. And if y'all were prepared, you got outplayed, you got out-coached, you got out-schemed, for a young team like that, that's so inexperienced as far as youth-wise, to go out there and just school y'all the way that they did, it was very, deflating for us just watching that in the press box. And so no, it was sad for me, just because I'm like, okay, this team has made strides the past month, playing their best ball yet, and then you go out there and you don't live up to your potential. It was a little sad, and especially for Dak, and you can't put all the blame on Dak, of course not. But just seeing him play and have that MVP level of a season, right, and you just not making good reads, your receivers aren't giving you that best chance either. I don't know. This offense let's start talking about this offense, y'all, because it really, they looked like, in the nicest words possible, like a college team, the way that they played out there. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but the way that they played that's how they looked.
Baby,
that's how they looked.
There's plenty of colleges that are running more motion than that.
That could beat that.
You know what they look like?
I'm not trying.
I'm sorry.
They look
That's
like
what
the
they look
offense
like.
from last season. That's what they look like. I'm not kidding when I tell you I went back to watch the San Fran game, and it was painful. It was painful. Trust me, I already didn't want to watch the Cowboys lose twice. but I did.
Yeah.
Because I was curious at the same exact issues. We're talking about defensive issues, offensive issues, same exact thing. Misreads, miscommunications, missed routes, lack of separation. I get so mad. I'm sorry.
Why are we running the football on first down when we haven't
Hold
done
on.
that the past?
Why are we running the football that much when it hasn't worked all season?
That part.
You've been a pass-heavy team all season. You've ran this West Coast system, which is pass-heavy, and now you want to run the football? Purely run the football. Fantastic, great. Do it all season. Be consistent with it. But why is CeeDee Lamb getting his first touch of the ball before the 2-minute warning of the first half? That's insane. I'm sorry. I'm so mad, guys.
Well, no, he had a couple of drops, though.
He was targeted 17 times.
He was targeted. Yeah, he was targeted.
But
He just
that
had a
didn't
few
come until the
drops.
second half. I'm saying the first touch he had on that ball was 2 minutes before halftime.
That was the only time.
He
caught it. He had
He
drops
was
the first-
targeted.
yeah,
He was targeted. But
It's so. It's just so.
Yes, it is. And the
not
receiving
like
core
this.
is better this year. So much, in my opinion, so much better this year with Brandon Cooks. And
Again.
last year you can, look and say, oh, the receiving core, they needed to upgrade it, and they did this year.
Yeah.
And it was really clicking. But for all the great things that CD did during the season, for all the great things that Dak did, Jake Ferguson, fantastic
Swiped away.
season.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's just the mantle that you carry when you're a Dallas Cowboy, because it's the legacy and it's all about what you do in postseason, and that doesn't make it fair, but that's what it is. And the players who have been here more than a couple years, I know that they feel it. They feel that burden that they have to carry, and the weight of expectations. And so, they know that it's going to be a brutal off season, that they're going to have to answer all the same questions again.
And they need to be
and
pissed
it's going to
off.
be that way for 11 and a half months until next year when we're approaching postseason again. But again, it's a different
say
team.
it like
You're going to have a 20 to 25% turnover in the roster. That's the average in the NFL. We talked about it a little bit in the first segment. There are some hard decisions that are coming up with player personnel as to who you can retain and who you can fit into the cap. And you need to get these new deals for CD, and you're going to extend Dak, and Micah's coming up, and how are you going to be able to fit some of these guys back on the roster when you have to make these big commitments?
And there's 16 players set to hit free agency this offseason.
Yeah.
You got Tony Pollard, Stephon Gilmore, Dorrance Armstrong, Tyron Smith, Tyler Biotish, Jaron Kearse, Jordan Lewis, Dante Fowler, Noah Igbenogany, Neville Gallimore, Jonathan Hankins, C.J. Goodwin, Chuma Edoga, Trent Sieg, Rico Dowdle, Sean McEwen.
Yeah.
16 guys.
That's a lot.
Where would you start? Who?
Yeah,
Well-
Dante Fowler. I don't know if I mentioned it, but two key guys at defensive end and 2 starters on the offensive line.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and then when you look
Not
at
to mention running back, and Rico Dowdle's a restricted free agent, so they'll probably bring him back. But it could look very different at running back next year.
Yeah, I mean, free agency is going to be different. It's this draft. I mean, I just started getting into this draft. There's a lot of wide receivers and stuff in there. But to y'all's point about the offense, I wanted to kind of chime in on the talk about CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. Y'all talk about, like, when you knew it was going to be a long day.
Oh,
if a
14
team
nothing,
doesn't
yeah.
have to take 88 away,
Yeah.
if they don't even have to try to put people over there or bracket him or anything, yeah, it's gonna be a long day. If you're not getting anything from him, he's supposed to be the guy that draws the extra defender. He's supposed to be the guy that people have to plan for over there. And when he was taken out of the game. I mean, they targeted him, but it wasn't efficient.
Right.
There were a couple of times that Dak was throwing to him when he was out of his break and CD wasn't ready for the ball. There were times that Dak was just not on time with the ball. There was communication with which route was supposed to be run. I didn't like the fight that one of CD's best traits that he's developed is the hand fighting at the line of scrimmage. He don't let nobody just be punking him out there because I think some people think he's smaller than what he really is. I didn't like the fight for the ball from the receiving core, but I will go back to Jess's point, and my point earlier is you didn't make it any easier on your receivers.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything to give them clear routes. If they're struggling with separation, maybe ask yourself why. this defense clearly knew some of the things that you were doing, and you just never dictated how they had to play football. And I feel like I've said that so many times, but really honestly, especially against this too high shell, my God, if you don't make them, and they tried with the deep route with Cooks, you got to hit that, bro.
Yeah.
You got to, because when you do, it changes how they have to play football. And nothing that you did offensively made them have to say, hey, man, we're going to have to change something up.
Yeah.
We got to get out of this.
And when you didn't hit Cooks on that, and then you got the long down and distance, and now you're behind the chains.
They can play fast. They can pin their ears back.
They can, exactly. And I think that what Green Bay did best in the game defensively is get Dak off of his mark.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it goes to the point of being, not in rhythm, and that, just not, leads to some inaccuracy and just timing issues and things like that. So, and that's something that the Cowboys defense had done so well all year in terms of with pass rush. In most games, they did a good job of that, and led to a lot of interceptions for Deron Bland and a lot of takeaways for the Cowboys defense. But this was a taste of your own medicine, right? The way that they were able to get Dak. They did flip the script.
That's what Buffalo. That's what Dak said about Buffalo. He said he was like, they just ran. They had the formula.
Yeah, the pick six, the other takeaway, and so they were, and they had the lead, a big lead early, and like you said, pin your ears back, and makes it even worse for the quarterback.
I know we're about to move on, but I just want to say, the offensive line was not bad.
They weren't.
That's what makes me more
sick.
sick, is that I thought the offensive line actually gave him time back there. But again, when you got two receivers in the same vicinity over and over and over again, you're making it easier for. And again, we don't know, because we're not out there. We don't know if there was miscommunication between the receivers, if the play didn't get in right, if whatever. We don't know all that stuff, but I can tell you straight up, the spacing was not good in a lot of this game. Yeah. And again, you just didn't do any of the things that were working to kind of help offset this defense being able to come downhill and play fast.
I also just want to point out, too, we talked about Dak's footwork all season, and just how his cadence was improved and how he took control of the offense. Early on, it was just very noticeable how different he was playing. I mean, you go back and you look at his feet, he was scrambling, and not in the ways you want to see, right? Yeah. He's trying to make those hero plays to the point where every single time he was sliding for that ball, I was like, oh no, you are setting yourself up for something not good if you keep trying to do that. And the fact that he felt like he had to continue to make those plays was what told me nothing was clicking on the offense. And even you look at these stats, CeeDee Lamb had 110 yards. Guess who was right behind him? Michael Gallup, who had the best game he's had all season. 103 yards, 6 for 6 with his targets and receptions. His longest was 42 yards. Jake Ferguson had a fantastic game.
3 touchdowns.
But that's going to be wiped away because of the loss.
Oh, gee willikers. Let's start attacking the seams when the game is out of hand.
So weird, right? Though, it's weird. Weird how that works.
Gee.
Not the G willikers.
You okay?
No, I'm about to
You know she's mad when she says G willikers.
Gonna have to bring back the coin jar.
Y'all gonna get that's a curse.
No, it's not. It's not at all. But I like it. That would be a cha-ching.
I thought you were gonna say barnacles.
No, that's how you know it's bad.
I'm evolving.
What happened?
It's turned into a very sarcastic G willikers.
G. Attacking the seams. Who would have thought?
That PG-13 version. Thank you for that. No, it is. It's just so frustrating, and I know that for Cowboys fans, it's a here we go again, and it's the same thing for the players, and that's what I just hurt for him. But you were talking about offensive line, Tyron Smith fighting through what he did. It looked like from late in the third quarter on, like, I don't know if he tweaked his back or something. He never missed a play.
Yeah,
he still played well. I never saw him getting treatment on the sideline, nothing like that. I don't even think they have a heating pad over there that he usually sits on. I didn't see him using that. But these guys played through a lot.
Yeah.
So anyone who questions the effort, I question
Facts.
Stephon Gilmore needing surgery, a torn labrum, playing with a harness.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think he should have played.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think I would rather have one-armed Stephon Gilmore.
Than no Stephon Gilmore.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But are you of the mindset? I saw that Barry Church said, like, maybe that played into some of the way that they did decide to play defense again.
Yeah.
I expected for them to maybe change up some looks, but I would venture to say it is a little harder to press and do those things when you're dealing with a shoulder. Maybe that was a reason for some of we won't know until we ask and stuff, but it made sense. And also too, there were times where he was getting turned. Like there were some of the en route decisions by the Green Bay Packers. Those wide receivers are good.
They did a great job. As much as people bag on the Cowboys, sometimes you really do have to also tip your cap to Green Bay. They had a great plan. It was well executed, and that team. I remember thinking late in the second quarter, I'm like, I wonder if this is going to be like the early '90s Cowboys moment for these Packers, because when the Cowboys, San Francisco was at the top, and the young Cowboys squad, they were about a year or two ahead of what people thought. Everyone knew they were up and coming, and then in '92, when they hit it, bang, it was there, and they unseated San Francisco, and it was lights out from then on. And it was almost like an accelerated pace of this, establishment of a dynasty. And I'm not saying that for the Packers, but I'm saying, wow, if this team with that kind of youth is doing that already, offensively, that side of the ball, they could be building something special there in Green Bay.
I would ask you, Christy, since you've been here covering the Cowboys, where does this kind of rank? This was actually asked to Jerry Jones. Where does this rank amongst as far as disappointing losses that you've seen or been around?
It's the freshest, so it's the worst because of the high expectations and 3 12-win seasons and knowing everything that's on the line.
Yeah.
But the 2007 was equally crushing. That was the 13-win season. That was Romo and Witten and T.O. Good defense. And then and then home field advantage and New York Giants and Eli Manning come in as the wild card team with the upset win at Texas Stadium, and that was the Cabo and all that. Jessica Simpson, or there was a lot to that. So that was really crushing as well, because everyone thought it's all set up, right? This could really be our year, and that was like slamming the brakes, man. That was like driving straight into a brick wall, and that's kind of how it felt with the loss to Green Bay this past weekend.
Yeah, it was rough.
All right. Well, we're going to take our second break. You're watching Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be right back.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that 6th ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Welcome back into Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. In the SWBC studio, Nicole Hutchison, myself alongside Aisha Morrison, Jess Navarez, and Christy Scales. Ladies, if you are Jerry Jones, where do you go from here?
I'm glad I'm not Jerry Jones. That's really Glad I'm not this week.
Same.
Yeah, if you think
Glad
you're
I'm not.
feeling low as a Cowboy
yeah.
fan and
I'm
longtime
not.
member of Cowboy Nation after
I
that loss,
feel
you can imagine what it's like for the Joneses.
So bad
So
for him.
it was locker clean out day Monday, and talked to some of the players, those that wanted to talk.
All three of them?
Yeah,
All three of the 53?
all three of the whopping 53 that wanted to talk on Monday, and we got a couple of things out of it. One of the main things was Jerry talked to them Monday morning. And we kept asking, well, what did he say? What did he tell you? And they were like, well, the point he made was that we need to win. And he wants to win now. He's not getting any younger, and he needs to win. So saying it without saying it, I would imagine if you were a fly on the wall during that, I'm not going to call it conversation. I don't think it was really two ways. He let him know how he felt, as he should, after that kind of loss. And after the game, Jerry talked, and he said he's not going to rank this among the most. He doesn't really rank how it feels after a playoff loss, but he was genuinely shocked. And I think the state of shock went around the locker room, the coaching staff, front office, because this was a game, one, you didn't expect to lose, but two, you didn't expect to lose in the fashion that you lost.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it the hardest is on Jerry, and the decisions he has to make is there was one nightmare scenario for you going into this game that you were going to have to make really hard decisions if you're Jerry. This was the nightmare scenario. If you're in the multiverse, this was the one multiverse that you're Jerry Jones having to make a lot of really difficult decisions because of the fashion in which they lost.
Well, I can tell you before the game, because we do the weekly Owner's Box interview. I interview him live on the field about 25, 30 minutes before kickoff every game, and he was feeling good about it. It was loose. Mark Murphy of the Packers, who you talked about being in the press box. From there, he joined us for the interview, and it was great to have them both talking together and things like that. And I can tell in pregame with Jerry how he's feeling about the game.
Yeah.
And it was clear that he was feeling good about it. And so, it makes it tougher. But in terms of the way that it ended, but in terms of moving forward, I don't know, I feel like Cowboys Nation sometimes demands its pound of flesh because this too shall not stand. We cannot have the same thing. It's the same thing over and over and over and over, just like we're saying, same as last year.
Yep.
And going back to that 2007 season and way before that, it's like we cannot get that next step. And so, but change for the sake of change is not always the way to go.
Correct.
And by the way, defensively, you may be making changes because Quinn has, he's already been linked. He's confirmed for 5 interviews for other head coaching jobs. But offensively, I put this out to the table. Do you want a change where Dak has another offensive system and you start over again?
I'm gonna go with the unpopular opinion for what Cowboys fans are barking on Twitter right now. No. And we talked about this after the game. Christy, you and I sat there and we talked about it because I think at some point change is needed because you're seeing the same results in the postseason, yes. So you're not just making change just for the sake of it. You're making change to be better and avoid this feeling again. As far as an offense goes, though, you can't just erase what Mike McCarthy has done for Dak Prescott this season. You can't erase that Dak has had an MVP caliber season pretty much matching up to the first 3 seasons he had in the league prior to the ankle injury, of course. You can't just erase that. And yes, people will define Dak Prescott based on this performance, and that all doesn't matter what he did during the regular season, but it should matter what Mike McCarthy has done with this offense in the matter of not just 3 years of being your head coach, but 1 year of taking over the play calling. Expecting Dak to be successful with 3 straight consecutive years of changing a play caller if they decide to, again, there's no confirmation of anything yet, or if there will be, is insane, especially where Dak is in his career, this late in his career. He's 30 years old. He's not getting any younger. I think expecting him to adjust to yet another play caller, another scheme, is unfair, and it sets him back more than it sets him forward.
Here's my thing. Do you?
No,
because I'm gonna hit a whammy. Go ahead.
Go.
Just ready to go.
So one thing that I had listened before I talk about how to move forward, listened to Jerry Jones in the post-game presser, and he had said that throughout the rest of the game, like the second half, all he could think about was the fans and how disappointed that they would be because of this loss. And when the questions were being fired at him post game, where do you go from here? Where do you, what's your next steps with McCarthy? Is da 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 da. And he's like, y'all ain't nobody was thinking about this. In summary, like, this is not something that obviously you're going in prepared in a game like that you should win. You're thinking about, okay, where are we going to be? Who are we playing next? And so that's what he said. I'm not really thinking about the next steps of coaching change, roster change, personnel, and things like that. But how do I move forward? I agree with Jess. I think we should keep McCarthy here. But personnel-wise, I might get crucified, y'all. I might get crucified for this. But I don't think, and love TP to death, I don't think that he's that feature back. I don't think he is. Again, and we don't have I think we need more offensive linemen too, more experienced guys, but I think we need a guy to come in and be that number one back. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like Zeke, And so I think that's where not where you start, but that's definitely a position that you should look at. Maybe, possibly.
No, yeah.
Possibility.
It may not. It's going to be out of your hands. He's a free agent.
Yeah, for sure. But
so he may get a higher money offer than what you're willing to pay, and if you decide to bring him back, and you may not be able to match it. So yeah.
Well,
Aisha, what do you think?
Number one, to comment on what Nicole said, more than any year, I do think this really hurt fans, and it's gonna divide fans. And I say that because Jerry felt confident. We felt confident because it felt like you had put together a roster that could go. Yeah. Despite it having its few little warts or some little issues, you put together a roster that's good enough to go win this thing. And also, too, from the play calling standpoint, you've seen things that you haven't seen. Like I was under the impression that, okay, we're going to do motion. They're going to do this. They're going to do this, whatever. So I do think fans are at a spot to where they don't know what to believe in. And that's a tough place to be in. As far as where do you go from here, I think, number one, you do keep McCarthy, to your point. He's established something here. But then I do think you got to look within the things that you did well this year, pull some of that out, and create an identity.
Yep.
Well, they have an identity.
No, you don't.
I feel like midway through the season, they found that identity.
The passing the ball was because you couldn't run it.
That's
true.
That's fact.
Remember,
it wasn't by choice.
The identity was going to be the run setting. We're going to be able to run.
It wasn't by choice.
If we're keeping it a real 1,000, the identity at the beginning of the season was we playing through our defense.
Yeah,
and Mike said that. Mike said that.
Again, so you passed the ball because you couldn't run the ball. I need them to figure out they should have like 15 to 20 plays that are their money makers all day. And this is what other coaches have said. Like I've heard this from other people that they should have. They didn't have an identity to me to fall back on in a game like this. So I think you go through the things you did well, you look at the things you didn't do well, and try to scrap out an identity and say, okay, this is who we are. This is what we do well. Outside of that, baby, I'm going to be real frank with you. You need to get somebody in this room that understands how to beat the Shanahan tree.
Yeah.
This is nuts. You're at a point to where, I mean, it's funny, but it's not. Yeah. Because those guys are just continuing to give you fits every year in the regular season or postseason. And if your play caller currently can't beat, they're your roadblock. Teams like that are your Achilles heel. We've seen it. How much do you need to see it? So for me, I'm like, I know Mike McCarthy is smart. Either he's going to do what he's done, we've talked about all season, hold himself accountable, get in the lab, and figure out how to take that next step to overcome this tree of offenses and defenses that are hurting you, or you bring somebody in here that can do it. I don't know what capacity. I don't know anything. I don't care if it's an advisor. Do something to get you over the hump, because every time you see these type of teams, you struggle. It's a problem. And on the defensive side of the ball, the Dan Quinn's system has been great for this team. It revived a lot of guys' careers. They figured some things out. Just like everything in the league, teams have figured out how to counter it.
Yep.
So if Dan does stay, don't know what's going to happen. He has to look himself in the mirror and make some adjustments. And that's not even just scheme. That's personnel, too. You have to look at how you're drafting. They have a lot of, these coaches have a lot of input on who's drafted. Okay, cool. It's okay to change it up. You got to look yourself in the mirror and say, why can't we get over this hump? A lot of it is scheme and personnel as well. So to me, and whoever the play caller that comes in here, on the defensive side of the ball, if it's different, he better know how to beat a Shanahan tree. These guys are going to, you just talked about it, Christy, baby. Green Bay's up and coming. There's other teams. This is a window for the Cowboys. And again, that's why I think the fans are sad. This is a big window for them to be able to go get to the ship. And for me, I'm sitting up here like, it's closing. Teams are closing the gap. Like, teams that weren't even supposed to be in the playoffs, the Rams lost everything and have revived their whole roster, and they further in the playoffs than you.
And so did Green Bay.
And so did Green Bay.
And Tampa.
Who barely got into the playoffs the last week.
Tampa, and people thought these teams were dead in the water.
And let's talk about the Houston Texans.
Oh,
yeah.
Lord.
People
By the way, they're coming here, and they're going to be in Arlington next year.
Another team that people thought were dead in the water.
Yeah.
They changed philosophy. They changed personnel. They went out and drafted, and they figured it out. So right now, that's what they got to do. They're going to have to figure some things out.
Yeah, to your point about the identity, though, you need an identity, but you need to stick to it in the postseason. Because it's not going to matter if you have an established identity during the regular season. You have 12 wins.
Yeah.
If you do this same song and dance every postseason, it will never be different. And it's just very unfortunate, because this is the team, to your point, Aisha, of how the NFC is set up, the teams around you,
not gonna get easier.
teams still in the playoffs. That's what I was saying earlier. It's so frustrating, because you see the matchup the Cowboys could have had. You could have easily broken that gap of getting out of the divisional round into the NFC Championship this year, and you didn't. Because why? You let your true identity of coming back in the postseason, the same things that haunted you last year, come back and become the discussion that's your identity. You need a new identity that you fall back on, and having CD and Dak with their chemistry. And look, when teams counter it, that can't just be your identity anymore.
Yep.
It's frustrating. I'm glad I don't have to be Jerry Jones to make these decisions, and we're in for, unfortunately, a very long off season.
What's up, draft season?
Yeah, draft show starts. Aisha.
Yep.
Tomorrow?
Come see a little
Wednesday,
dog.
right?
Tomorrow?
Wednesday.
Already?
Yeah, tomorrow.
wow.
We will be on tomorrow at 10 and Thursday at 10, and then the regular schedule will roll out. But yes, so it was been sooner than later, which I hate, but
Here we are.
Go kill it.
let's build a house.
Go kill
See
it.
what happens.
All right, and we start our off-season schedule starting next week. So Girls Talk, Boys Talk will be on Thursdays at 10 a.m.
Yes.
That's a wrap for the regular season.
Yeah,
y'all.
thank you, everybody.
And thank you, everyone. Yes.
Really,
Yes.
seriously. Thank
We
you. Thanks
appreciate
for all the
y'all.
great feedback.
We didn't expect to have to end this this
Yeah.
week,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
All right,
But we love y'all.
Season 2.
We did it. We did
All
it.
right, see y'all next week.
Bye, guys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!